All right, we are live streaming.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gloria Lee from the CACA Portland Lodge, and I'm here to introduce to you our Seattle partner and friend, Dr. Kevin Lee. Not only is he a doctor of optometry, but he is a chef. And this has been the most fun ever for the CACA convention. Is Kevin has agreed to video and produce 2 recipes that are very traditional to the old style, Cantonese style, I believe, right, Kevin?
Yep.
That many people may have forgotten about in the last 5 years of Asian fusion cooking. So without further ado, Kevin, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background, and because you're quite talented. And
well, thank you.
I was inspired by Kevin.
Well, I'm, one of the Seattle Lodge charter members here, and I got involved when they had their convention here in Seattle. Unfortunately, I was in Boston at the time, but I did for the last part of the meeting. And professionally, like she said, I'm an optometrist. But growing up, I grew up in a Chinese restaurant family. Our family actually had 2 different Chinese restaurants at one time. So every year, all the other kids got to go to basketball camp or space camp. I got to go to Chinese restaurant camp. So I guess in the end, it paid off because I learned how to cook. And I chose these 2 recipes because, this is the Chinese American Citizens Alliance. So these dishes are really Chinese American dishes. You won't find them in China, Toisan, Hong Kong. These are Chinese American dishes. So it's sort of collaboration between both cuisines, Chinese and American. And the first one we're going to show is the tomato beef chow mein. And do you have that start the video, I guess? So we'll share the video. Coming to you from Seattle Zhonghua Benevolent Association in the heart of Seattle's Chinatown. On behalf of Seattle CACA Lodge, we'd like to congratulate the Portland Lodge on their 100th anniversary. Today, I'm going to be making tomato beef chow mein, which is an Chinese American food classic. So first, we're going to slice the beef. So you want to take long strips of beef with the grain, and you want to cut across the grain. It makes the beef more tender. So here we go. Once you get the beef sliced, and then we're going to marinate it. So we're going to marinate it in several different spices as seen here. So first, we're going to add some sesame oil, some salt, some white pepper. And this is an optional ingredient, but it's some egg white. It actually helps tenderize the meat. So then we'll mix that up. And this is a way you can actually tenderize and prepare meat when you're ready to stir fry. A lot of different dishes when you're cooking with beef. And next we're going to add some cornstarch, and this is called velveting. It makes the meat more smooth when it's cooked. And then you want to prepare this ahead of time and let it sit and marinate for a few minutes before you cook it. just like that, and then just let it sit. And then we're going to prepare the other vegetables here. So we're going to take the spoon, and we're going to use the spoon to clean some of the ginger off with the spoon to peel the ginger skin. And then we'll slice it into thin slices. And next, we will switch knives and cook our onion.
Cooking demonstration.
Onion here.
Is it? Portland.
And then we'll cut it into wedges here. Then we have our green pepper, and also slice into wedges. At an angle, at a bias. And finally, the star of the show, the tomato. So we're going to have it, take the core out. This core out. And we're going to cut it into thirds. This is a smaller tomato, so thirds should be fine. Now that we got all the veggies prepped, we're gonna start over here with the noodles. These veggies here. Water. Need a little water. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fry the noodles. Let's start this wok up. It already has some oil in here. I'm going to heat that up. So this is how you make the crispy noodles on the bottom of the platter. It's not quite hot enough, but we don't want it too high, we want it on medium. And as that gets warm, there we go. As we wait for that, we can go over the ingredients for the sauce. We have tomato ketchup, we have oyster sauce, white pepper, sesame oil, some sugar, and some chicken base. And then we have a cornstarch slurry later to thicken up the sauce, and some water. Okay, so let's wait for this oil to heat up. So once you finish, fry. The noodles may take several minutes to fry. And then after we pan fry it, it should look like this. So it'll be nice and golden brown. So let's take this out.
Got a big kitchen.
And then we can use the same oil
Counter space goes all the way around.
stir fry our beef. So a lot of the different vegetables, they take different cooking times. So we have to cook each vegetable in stages to make sure that they're cooked properly.
Trying to make it louder and it didn't work.
Just add a little bit of oil to the meat here. That'll just kind of help the meat, prevent it from sticking to the pan once we hit the hot oil. Okay, we can hear that. That's one disadvantage of working on an electric stove versus a gas stove. It takes a little while for it to heat up. sear the beef here. Just kind of let it brown in the bottom of the pan. And as we move it around, it's sticking to the pan, but eventually, when it gets to its doneness, it's going to be released from the bottom of the pan, and it should start moving freely in the bottom. So right now, just leave it cook a little while. And then it just releases it once it's ready. Turn it over, and we don't want it to be fully cooked, but we want it maybe 3/4 cooked. We're going to put it back in after, so we don't want it to be too overdone. So that's good, a medium rare there. We can put it back into this bowl. Oh, lots of one over there. Okay, it's a lost bowl there. Okay. And now we're going to start with the vegetables. So let's start with the onions first. Let's brown the onions. And this is over high. We can turn it down a little bit. We don't want it to burn. And as you can smell the fragrance of the onions cooking, and they're releasing its moisture into the pan. And the moisture is releasing the fond on the bottom of the pan, you can see there. And we're going to add the garlic and ginger. Okay, and next we're going to add our green pepper. Turn it up a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little water. And that kind of deglazes the pan and releases all the fond from the meat that was stir-fried previously. So I'm let that come back up to, and then we'll add some chicken base, some white pepper, sesame oil, maybe add a little bit. Let's add a little bit of oyster sauce. With the cold water, it does take a few seconds for it to come back up to temperature. Okay, and then we're going to add some sugar. And so the main star of the ingredient, this is ketchup. I guess that's what makes a dish Chinese American, right? Well, it's just ketchup was invented by the Chinese, so okay, so there we go. And let that come up to a boil. Okay. And the tomatoes actually don't take too long to cook, so you want to put those in last. Back up to temperature now. Has a lot of gravy, which is good. We want a little bit more because we kind of want a saucy gravy for the noodles. Let that come back up to temperature. Good. Let's add the beef back in. Let the beef kind of heat up again in the sauce. Let it kind of marry the flavors. All right, looks pretty good. And then we're going to add the tomatoes. Let those kind of cook for a while. You don't want to overcook the tomatoes. You want to kind of heat them through. It's pretty good. We'll let that come back up to temperature. Every time you add a new ingredient with an electric stove, the temperature has to get back up to temperature, so it does take a few minutes. That's pretty saucy. Like I said, you don't want to overcook the tomatoes, so it's looking really good. The next thing we need to add, the last thing is actually a cornstarch slurry, and this will kind of thicken up the sauce to make it a nice gravy for the chow mein. You add it slowly. As it boils, the sauce will thicken, so you don't want to add too much at one time. That's actually pretty good. And then we'll take our noodles and slightly arrange it over the crispy noodles. It may look like we have too much sauce, but fear not, we have those other noodles there that we'll add it to later. So just make it appetizing. There you go. And there you go. That's the tomato beef chow mein. And we'd like to also congratulate Portland Lodge on their 100th anniversary. Thank you very much. Great. So maybe should we show the other video and then we'll take questions if there are any? Why don't we show the other video for the Hong To Yi Fu Wonton? Good afternoon and welcome to the historic Seattle Zhonghua Benevolent Association in the heart of Chinatown. Today I'm going to demonstrate a Chinese American classic called Hong To Yi Wonton, which is a deep fried wonton in an egg flour broth. So first we're going to marinate the meat. So we're going to have some ground pork here, and we're going to add some chicken base, some salt, white pepper, some sesame oil, some sugar, some oyster sauce, and we're going to add some egg yolk. This acts as a binder for the meat. And also we're going to add some dried black mushrooms, some diced water chestnuts, and some diced ginger. And we're going to also add some cornstarch. Kind of makes the meat smoother and it binds the meat together. So we just combine the ingredients together and mix well. And after you combine the ingredients, then you would want to refrigerate this and let that set for about half an hour. But I just happen to have one here that we're going to use to wrap the wonton. And we like to use this type of wonton. It's a medium size thickness, so it fries up very well when it's deep fried. This one is Sui Chang brand. It's a local brand here in Seattle. Sui Chang has been in Seattle for over 100 years. So we're just going to wrap the wonton here. Put a little water to allow it to stick to itself. You can always make these fresh, and you can always make them ahead of time and freeze them and then fry them when you want to make the soup. But today we're making them fresh, so that's good. So you just wrap it like so. And I'll show you how we fry them. So just get the oil to temperature, and then we're going to place them in the hot oil. Careful, just place them gently in the oil. And it'll take several minutes to get to golden brown. You can kind of move them around just to make sure that they cook evenly. So we're gonna have those sit and fry. And then we're going to go over here and I'll show you how we make the broth. We actually have some of the wontons that we fried earlier here. And so we're going to start to make the broth. There we go. So we have several ingredients here for the soup. We have salt, white pepper, some sugar, sesame oil, chicken base, and some egg white, and some cornstarch slurry. These are extras that we added to the soup. It's sliced barbecue pork, some sliced shiitake mushrooms, some bamboo shoot, and some chopped bok choy. This one is a optional ingredient called cilantro. Some people don't like it, so if you're making it for someone that doesn't, you can leave it out. Okay, so we're going to get the water to a boil. And we start adding our ingredients. So we're going to add our salt, our white pepper, a little bit of sugar, some chicken base. The sesame oil we'll add last. And we can add our shiitake mushrooms and bamboo shoots. And bok choy doesn't take too long to cook, so we'll hold off on that, and the barbecue pork is already cooked as well. As we let that come to a boil, stir around. Great. We can add our bok choy. Just add some color. Add our cornstarch slurry to thicken the soup up. And this is a very classic Chinese American dish. Not many restaurants make it nowadays. We can find it in San Francisco in the Oakland Bay area, but a couple other restaurants outside of Chinatown make it, outside of those Chinatowns make it, but it's kind of going by the wayside. But you know, it's actually very delicious, and it's one of my favorite ones. So after we thicken that up, we're going to add our barbecue pork, slivers, and We're going to slowly add the egg white to make the egg flour portion. So slowly drizzle the egg white into the hot broth. You know, form little egg flowers as it cooks in the hot broth. It's like magic there. You can use whole egg as well, but I tend to like just the egg white for this soup. So add the sesame oil. I usually like to add sesame oil last because if you cook it too long, it loses its essence. And the soup is done. So we're going to plate it up here. So this one we're going to make for the cilantro lover, okay? So we're going to take some of the broth here. And then we're going to we're going to take these wonton over here out of the oil. Cool. The oil, and then our soup is back to a boil. We can turn that off. And you just plate by placing some of the deep fried wontons on the top. But six is a good number. And we're going to garnish with some cilantro. Like I said, sometimes this is an optional ingredient for some people. And there we go, Hong To Yi Wonton, straight to you from Seattle, Zhonghua, in the heart of Seattle, Chinatown. And we like to also congratulate Portland on their 100-year anniversary of the CACA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Kevin's going to take some questions. I have one.
Okay.
But I will say I have been monitoring the chat, and there is a huge number of people that would like to know how to get an apron. Kevin?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
There's a huge number of people that would like to have your apron.
Oh, you know, that was one of my, I had these older rice sacks, and I had a lot of time on my hands, so I made some aprons out of them. That was a COVID project.
Well, we love it. I think there was a question on, okay, the recipes are on the chat and they can be downloaded as I'm looking at this. Rue put them on chat as tomato beef chow mein and Hong To Yi. It is all on chat. That can be downloaded. It is on YouTube that you can watch again. Let's see. There were some other questions. I learned a new tip, Kevin, I want to ask about. You dip the chopsticks in the hot broth afterwards to pick up the wontons. What does that do? And okay, Kevin, you're on mute, so you have to start all over.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so I realized those are the chopsticks I used to mix the meat with, which was raw. So I wanted to dip it in the hot oil and dip it in the hot soup to sterilize them before I touch the cooked wonton.
I thought that was a trick.
Or I could have just had a second pair of chopsticks, but that was the one I had on hand, so I just kind of improvised there.
Okay,
And,
for
yeah.
everyone on the call, there's a little button down below that says reactions. And if you want to raise your hand if there are questions, or just feel free to unmute and ask any questions that you might have or share anything.
Yeah, and I looked on the gas stove would be Zhonghua was nice enough for kitchen, which we just remodeled, but unfortunately, Seattle City Code doesn't allow gas ranges in non-residential type settings, so we're not able to do gas at that historic building, unfortunately. So gotta use electric. And but did anybody have any questions?
There's one question in chat. If you don't have a wok, what can you use and what do you need to do differently?
Oh, okay. If you don't have a big wok, well, I mean, you could use for deep frying, of course. I mean, I use that electric fryer. You could also use a Dutch oven for the deep frying. To make the soup portion, you could just use a larger pot. Something with a heavier gauge, it'd hold the heat better than using something like aluminum. Something like a heavier gauge pan would work if you don't have a wok.
And Stephen, you had your hand up.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Kevin. I'd like to invite you to come to the Portland CCBA to cook for us.
Hey, do you guys have a kitchen there?
Oh, yeah, big kitchen.
Wow, sure.
No, man. This is Neil. Come to the Lee Association. We got a good kitchen.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, hey, it's only a few hour drive from Seattle. So
yeah, just come over to Portland. You will be a few days of cooking for us.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Anybody else?
What kind of oil do you use when you fry?
Yeah, peanut oil is best, but that was just regular cooking oil, canola oil. I think it's it has lower cholesterol. I think everybody, in the old time, the restaurant we used to use lard, right? So,
yeah.
But I think nowadays everybody's trying to be lighter and less cholesterol. So good canola oil, I think, would be fine for that. It has a high smoke point for cooking that. And you don't need to cook it very high. Medium is good enough for the wonton. They take a little while to cook, but I think you don't need a very, very hot oil for that.
And Kevin, one other question. Do you have any tips to share about how to keep your wontons from not falling apart?
Well, you do need a binder. For the meat, I used some egg yolk and the cornstarch. That helps to bind the meat together. And also when you wrap them, you can either use a little bit of water like I did, or just use some of the filling to use as a paste to keep them stuck together.
Kevin?
Yes.
How you doing, Kevin? Good job today.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
I just want to ask you, do you have stock in the stainless steel bowl company? You're using a lot of stainless steel bowls.
I don't, but I really enjoy using those. They're pretty inexpensive. You can find them in most Chinese stores, and they stack really well. They don't break, and they'll last a long time. So I recommend them. But I don't have any stock in them. You guys should.
I want to borrow your sous chef. Who does all the cutting and chopping and slicing?
That was me. That was me. When I was so thankful to Gloria to invite me, and I agreed. And but I had one advice: maybe say no next time. But it was fun. It was fun. I did learn a lot. Thanks, Gloria. I did learn a lot. First time we made this video, and the help of my friend Warren, he really helped a lot in the filming, and thanks to Zhonghua for allowing me to use their new kitchen. I had to volunteer to clean it up first because there was a lot of construction mess, but hey, it's for a good cause. We're glad we were able to do that for everybody.
Well, we appreciate it. You're going to do some more cooking shows?
Hey, well, find some more recipes, right? Maybe some from the new revised gourmet book from Portland Lodge, right?
Right.
Maybe you should
Kevin,
have a show like Kevin Can Cook.
Yes, Kevin can cook. That's a good one.
Kevin can cook.
Kevin can cook. There
This all
you
started
go.
because
There
Kevin,
you go. In between patients, right? In between patients, I can start cooking, right?
Yeah, Kevin, start your own
I
YouTube channel.
work in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
you know,
started because
a
Kevin
lot of
has
work, though, but
fabulous pictures on his
I remember.
Facebook
Yeah,
page.
on Facebook.
Kevin, do you want to share your Facebook? You can tell people because that's how
Sure.
you and I
we could-
started doing this way
you
back a
could-
couple years ago.
Yeah.
And Kevin posts the most amazing foodie pictures. I can definitely tell he was a foodie. So when this opportunity came up and we were going to reissue the CACA Portland Lodge cookbook is going into its 7th printing. And any of you that are interested in purchasing a copy of it can go to cacaportland.com. At the top of the website, it says order your cookbook here. It is 240 pages of recipes. Wow. We have kept it traditional because we recognize that times have changed. Most of these recipes are from the Toisan Cantonese style of cooking. And there is one recipe that I did edit, but I left the recipe intact. And that is the one on shark fin soup, because shark fins are now illegal as of June 2021. There are penalties for commercial fishing of that and buying and selling. So we have made a recommendation for a substitute, but we left the recipe in there so that we can have this history of the old style, mostly Cantonese Toisan recipes in there. So if you would like it, go on our website. I'll put it, I can't do 3 things like Kevin can do. I'll put it in a chat right now. You can just go to cacaportland.com and you can order the cook. Oh, there. Thank you, Kitty. You can order it from there. It has been so much fun to work with Kevin on this. And again, a special thanks to Warren Yee, who I think is at work at this point. So that did the filming
right
did the filming, and it was rather warm.
Yeah, that's why you see where you're wearing shorts.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to film that part, but
it was rather warm. And I want to thank Warren for allowing us to introduce cilantro, which I think is not his favorite green.
Yeah, he doesn't like that. But I really can't endorse this book so much. This actually, Gloria sent me a copy a few weeks back, but this copy is actually my mother's copy, which she purchased in 1973. When, back in the day, we used to, the Seattle kids, Seattle Chinese Athletic Association and CACA, we used to have basketball tournaments back and forth between Seattle and Portland. I think my mom must have bought this during one of the intermissions at one of the basketball tournaments. But yeah, I've used this cookbook. It's actually really good, and I'm glad they reissued it. I encourage everybody to get a copy. It's awesome.
Well,
buy another copy, Kevin. They're on sale.
Sorry?
Buy another copy.
Yes, as gifts. I want to get some more as gifts to give to my nieces and other younger folks that don't have these. It's actually good housewarming gift, good gift. You name it. It makes a very nice gift because it's flying off the shelf. So I encourage everybody to purchase some, and I will.
And I think that 1973, that was the first printing was November of 1972. And Betty Jean, I know you're on. Do you want to unmute and say a little something? I'd like to give some credit to the leadership of Betty Jean Lee, who number one, inspired this cookbook and inspired me to get it re-edited and get it reprinted, because it has, for me, it has a lot of sentimental value, because this is what my mom cooked from, and I can remember these recipes. So Betty, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Thank you, Kevin. You did a great job. The original, the parents of the basketball team, Kevin, were we got tired of selling pepperoni and popcorn and whatever, and so my couple of my friends and I said, you know, we should get our friends to submit recipes and we could make a cookbook. And so that's what we did. And we hand typed all the recipes. Of course, you know, in those days, there was no computers. And so the first printing, my friend Janet Locke and I went to the printer and we said that we would print 1,000 cookbooks. And I said, you know, we're going to have to eat these cookbooks if we don't sell them. Fortunately, the Oregonian did an article and we sold 1,000 cookbooks the first week. So we've been very fortunate. So I think it's a great book to pass on to the younger generation.
And I heard that Betty will autograph your book for you if you order it right now.
Yes, they will probably be ready to ship out in about 14 days. And we already had some people order some books online. But to respond to another chat online, the cookbook is definitely in English, and it really was designed to also for our non-Chinese American, but American friends, to introduce them to easy Chinese recipes that we hope they would share with their families. So it's definitely, in fact, in the very back of the cookbook, there's like, I think 10 pages of helpful hints about where to go shopping. And there's a glossary of terms like what is agar? What are bean sprouts? You know, what are black fermented beans and how do you use them? What is spice powder? And it goes on and on. So it's a very practical cookbook for introduction to Chinese cooking. And Kitty says it's a great holiday gift to your friends. Yes, I agree. Anyway, this Kevin, do you want to close our presentation or are you on?
Any more questions? Right. But yeah, if anybody, I was just like to thank Gloria and the Portland Lodge for inviting me to produce this segment, and you know, it was a real learning curve for me. Do a cooking type video, and also the just uploading the video. I don't have that technical experience, but I did learn, and so that's actually a great thing for me to do. And so I just want to thank Gloria and the Portland Lodge for inviting me to do this cooking segment. And I'd like to congratulate Portland Lodge on their 100th anniversary. You know, it's too bad we can't meet in person, but you know, hopefully we can come down soon to Portland and wish you congratulations in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Can everybody just unmute? Can you everybody unmute and let's give a big round of applause to Kevin. Yay! Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Melanie for the closing remarks.
Can we eat now?
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Kevin, for that wonderful cooking demonstration. I'm so hungry right now. I was getting more and more hungry as you were cooking. And it really brought back a lot of childhood memories of, what my mom used to make and what we used to eat in Chinatown. And it was such a nice thing. So thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you everybody for today. And again, a congratulations to Portland Lodge for their 100th anniversary, and hoping that everyone can join us on Tuesday. Tuesday the 10th. We will be focusing on history and preservation. So check your emails for the program update. So I'm going to let everyone go because I think everyone's really hungry right now. Or either you're going to go shopping so you can make that tomato chow mein, because that's what I have a craving for right now. All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Gloria.